Hey everyone, Reaper here again with another video. This time it is comic book haul, I believe 26? Correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. I do believe it's 26. This time I call this video, this particular haul, the new trend because it covers EC exclusively. I'd like to show off some of the EC pickups I've been getting over the last year. Some of them I have had over a year now, just a couple. And one of the books I'm going to show was on my top 12 list. I really should probably do an update video on that top 12 list. It's pretty much, there's still a few books on that top 12 list that I'm going to attempt to get this year, but it pretty much, most of them, I've just wiped it clean. Because I purchased I purchased a book in particular that I think beats everything on that list or anything else I could put on that list for a top 12 list for a while, and I put a couple other books on it. So maybe I should do an update sometime soon. But in any event, there are still a few that I showed that are on my top 12 list that I'm going to get, and one of them is in this video, and you can pretty much figure out which one that is. Before I go on with this video, I want to say a couple of things. Thank you for those of you that watched my Sega Saturn collecting and memories video. I plan to do many more of those. As a matter of fact, after this, I'm probably going to shoot a Sega CD one, and I'll do a Sega Genesis one, and a Sony PlayStation one, and a few others. For those of you that commented on it, thank you so much. I can tell that those of you that commented are, really into gaming. Or liked the video, or liked the idea of the video, or something to that effect. So I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun filming that video, and I had a lot of fun interacting with people in the comments. Another thing I'd like to say before I get this video off and running with showing the books. So I'd like to give a special shout out to a new YouTuber. He's been on Facebook for a while, I believe. I'm not quite sure how long. But anyway, he just started making videos, I think, a couple of weeks ago. His name is Comic Book Boss 1. Really, really nice, friendly, from England, over the pond, across the pond. And a lot of his videos are really, really cool. I thoroughly enjoyed his inside look into Showcase 30, and showed his slab videos, showed the differences between the slabs he's got, slab collection and so forth. He's got a great collection. He does nice videos showing some certain runs that he has, like a McFarlane Spider-Man run, a Green Lantern run, and so forth and so on. So enough of me yakking about it. Go check him out. Comic Book Boss 1. Or Comic Boss 1, I think his handle is. Anyway, nice guy. So let's get this show on the road. EC books. Now, I mainly collect the horror ones, but unfortunately I don't have any of the crime ones. I would like to get a few of those. Some of the most controversial covers came out of the crime suspense stories. Crime suspense stories. I know the horror books tend to get talked about a lot more. Sometimes when we think about the controversy with EC, we tend to think of the horror books, but I'll tell you, some of the best covers were those crime books. Unfortunately, I don't have any of those. But I do have a classic cover to show you right now. There we go. Vault of Horror number 35, the classic Christmas cover. Low grade. Jeez, who thought I would ever collect low grade, right? That's an inside joke. Definitely one of my favorite covers, but also, one of the reasons why I need to upgrade this, actually. Not because I can't stand looking at it, because I'd like to have a nicer copy of it. It's a classic cover with the classic story and All Through the House. That particular story, All Through the House, which is the cover story, was featured in the Tales from the Crypt movie that came out in I always get the years mixed up. I think it might have been 72 or 73. Great movie. I loved it, and it was also one of the first 3 episodes done in 1989 when HBO did the Tales from the Crypt series. So, next one. Another Vault of Horror book. Number 32, the Censored cover. Now, originally, for those that have the reprint of this or those that have seen this image, you see it right here. I'm sorry you're getting the glare. It's actually, it is like in the, like around noon, but it's a gloomy day. It's filming on Good Friday too, so who would have thought a gloomy day on Good Friday? But anyway, as you can see here on the zombie or whatever, they have this almost like a light effect, a glare effect, if you will. Originally, as those of you that, like I said, if you've seen this cover before, he originally had a meat cleaver in his head, so I guess that was just too shocking. Another great cover, I think. One of the many hanging covers. Shock Suspense Stories number 5. A pretty cool cover. It's, it's unfortunately it looks like a lynching, so not very nice, but definitely a controversial cover. One of the many hanging covers that EC has done. I know there are quite a few in crime. As I was alluding to earlier, they had some of the best covers in the EC library, in my opinion. But definitely glad to have that one. And I also purchased that one and this one from Semper Fi Comic Guy a year ago, Vince. And with that, I'll show you the second one. It is Tales from the Crypt, number 36. One of my favorite stories in the Tales from the Crypt series is in this book, and that's why I went after this book. It was based off of a Ray Bradbury story called The Handler. And anything with morticians, because of my background, I just love. And definitely one of the more unique mortician stories in the EC library, that I found really, I love them all, but that was one of my favorites. Here we go again. Another low grade. Shock Suspense Stories number 1. Not only, I wanted this obviously because it's a number 1, it's the number 1, but once again, going back to the movies done from England in the early 70s. This time, The Neat Job was The Neat Job, which was in the Vault of Horror movie with, I think the main character was Terry Thomas. It was sort of almost like a comedic tale. The way he was always so neat and tidy and always drove his new wife crazy. Everything had to be perfect. Well, that story appeared in this. And I also think, I could be wrong, EC Ed, if you're watching, you might want to correct me on this. The HBO episode Yellow with Kirk Douglas, I believe, was also in this issue. It was like a war story. Now, this book I showed in a haul over a year ago, but this is the upgrade to it, and I actually gave this book its own inside look, my very first inside look of a book. I upgraded it to probably I think it's between a 6 and a 7. I'm not the perfect grader, but I do believe it's a 6 or a 7. It was sold to me as that, and I agree. I have to show this book. This is my favorite cover of all time. Those of you that watch my channel that really pay attention, you would know that. Haunt of Fear number 12. Also, though, once again, the cover story, Poetic Justice, was in the Tales from the Crypt movie from the early 70s. It had the character right here, the zombie coming back. He was played in the movie by Peter Cushing. And we know Peter Cushing from the Hammer horror movies, and he was Grand Moff Tarkin in Star Wars and a bunch of other things. We're getting down to it. I only have 3 more left. This is one of my favorite Vault of Horror covers. This is something that I became introduced to by looking at the Gladstone reprints of the early 90s when they would show, you opened up and they would show like the original cover to the stories that you're reading. Vault of Horror number 13. This is actually the 2nd issue of Vault of Horror. Before, you had Vault of Horror 12, which is very hard to get and very expensive. And before that, it was War Against Crime. The series was War Against Crime, in which the Vault Keeper... Actually, I had a question several videos ago. What happened to... Why is War Against Crime number 10 important? Well, to EC fans and to comic book fans that are interested in that, it's the first appearance of the Vault Keeper. Well, this is the 2nd issue of the Vault of Horror, number 13. Their numbering system was funky because they constantly changed titles on many of their books. Sorry about the little glare, but this is... beautiful cover. I just love the background here against the yellow, and you look at the zombie. The story in this is The Curse of Harkey Heath, the cover story. But look at the ornate molding of the mausoleum and the water creeping in, and you see in the background the moon. Just fantastic. Johnny Craig, although Graham Ingalls is my favorite EC artist, Johnny Craig was one of my favorites too, and he put out some of the best covers, and a lot of those controversial covers that we talked about earlier when it came to the crime suspense stories. Now this one is a treat. It's another low-grade copy. Maybe one day I'll upgrade it. I don't know. It's not on my priorities list, but it's very nice to have in my collection. I was lucky to pick this up. I put this on Instagram back in November just because I was so happy that I got this at my local comic book shop. Here we are. Shock Suspense Stories number 6. Another episode from the HBO series is in this book called Dead Right. It's the second season with Demi Moore and Jeffrey Tambor. You know, Jeffrey Tambor played the very, very overweight guy that Demi Moore went to a psychic. She was going to meet him, and he was going to die violently, and she was going to get all this money. Well, that story first appeared. It's the first story in this, actually. And just look at this. I would say this is the second most controversial cover in the EC library. Now, I know there's probably a lot of people that disagree with me. That's fine. I think the first controversial cover, the number one that everyone thinks about, is Crime 22, the decapitation cover. But I think this is a strong second. Just look at this. Bondage cover, bigots, just amazing, absolutely amazing cover, and I never thought I would get this book. I don't mean to give that cliche never thought, because it's not something that I was really looking to purchase, and then when it popped up and I thought it was a good price, then I got it. But it's not something that I never thought I would afford it. No, it's not something that was on my priorities list. Because, I'm tired of the cliche, never thought. Well, never say never, I guess. And the last book, if you were listening to me in the beginning of the video, you pretty much know what this one is, and I'm very happy to have it. I'd say it's about a 3.0 copy. The guy selling it is like, it's like I was told from a real reliable source it's a 4.5. No, it's not. It's not a 4.5. It has its issues. I mean, it's complete. It's attached. It's got some tears and a bunch of other things, and it has a stain on the inside that goes through several wraps. But it still presents very well. It's complete. I have no restoration as far as I can tell. But absolutely beautiful cover. And I love the stories in this. The first one is Death Must Come. Now, I think I said this before in another video. Oh, and also, before I get to that, the very first, I believe it was the very first HBO episode from Tales from the Crypt, first season, was The Man Who Was Death with, I think his name was William Sadler. I don't remember. But The Man Who Was Death, the guy that was going around, he was an executioner, and when some of the convicts were released, he felt that they shouldn't have been released, so he took justice in his own hands and then eventually started executing innocent people. That appears in this issue. But there's another story in this called The Corpse No One Knew. You would think that that's a horror story, right? Oh, there's a corpse and all that stuff. But no. Before it became Crypt of Terror, it was Crime Patrol. And I think it was something else earlier than that. So it was mainly the stories that were in these books were mainly crime-based. And you could tell that they were still transitioning. They were going toward horror, but they still had some of that crime theme in them. It wasn't until I think a few issues later with Tales from the Crypt, maybe 19, they really started going full-blown horror. But there's still a hint of it. Still a hint of the crime drama in some of the earlier Crypt of Terrors that I've noticed. Well, that's my new haul video. Another haul video will be out in June. Let's just say that haul I'm going to call Uncanny. And the August haul, as we all know, will be amazing. I'm going with the theme. I like themes. I know, corny, but I enjoy them. So that's my haul. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you once again for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for watching my other videos. And check out Comic Book Boss 1. Very nice guy. Great videos. You won't be disappointed. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.